Hey everybody, this is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I am very excited to bring back one of my favorite guests. This is Terry, the Stoic Medium, and Terry has been with me once before and shared a lot about what he does. There's a series of informative classes that he offers on YouTube, but there's much more to it. So we're going to talk about a number of things about being psychic today. I've been asked a few times about things to do with psychic skills and psychic abilities. And so I wanted to ask for Terry's help because Terry basically is the main psychic teacher I'm aware of in this day and age that I align with mentally a lot in our thinking and our belief systems. And he's definitely more equipped because he's actually arranged his life to do this. This is kind of Terry's calling, is to bring together people out of like-mindedness. So Terry, you've been doing this since the 80s, is that right?
Yeah, I started my first development classes in 1987.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so and that was like when I was 10 years old.
right. Okay. Um, I kind of wanted to talk about a few things today, but one of them is, people ask me frequently, how do I know if I'm having a psychic experience? Am I psychic is the question. And how do I know, how do I know when I'm uh, having a spiritual awakening? Let's talk about that first. How does that manifest in people? How does that show up?
Spiritual awakening is one of those very simple things that people's brain has to make a really big deal. So, in my opinion, in my experience, you're either spiritually awake or you're
Mhm.
not. So, it's binary.
Okay.
So, the moment you wake up and you know without having any proof that spirit communication is possible, there is absolutely life after death, you don't doubt it anymore. You know, and you know that you know
Right.
you're spiritually awake. But that
Okay.
presents another problem. We were raised in a physical body, managing only through our physical senses. So now you have to expand your awareness to learn how to take advantage of your spiritual awakening. So the 7 stages or 9 stages or 13 stages, if you go look out on the internets, are expansions of your awareness rather than a awakening experience. And the problem is you have to reconstruct your life with a new set of information from the energy realm, from the spiritual realm, from the universal realm, whatever you want to call it. You have a corresponding set of psychic senses or spiritual senses that overlay your physical senses. A spiritual awakening acknowledges the spiritual senses and psychic senses exist. Now you have
Right.
to train and develop yourself to receive information on command, just like you do with your physical senses. So that's, in my opinion, where we diverge and differ from people. Everyone else gets all caught up in the stages of awakening. Well, you're awake or you're not. Just like in the morning, the alarm clock goes off, the sun comes up, you wake up. Then you have a whole new problem. What the hell am I going to do today? Same thing with your spiritual awakening.
Okay. Because I think one of the things that really trips people up is they have a concept of religion and spirituality from their upbringing, let's say, and when they have a psychic moment or a psychic curiosity, then there's this horrible looming thought of, do I have to relearn everything? Do I have to start over? How much time is this going to take? I have a life. You know,
Yeah.
someone might have an intuitive moment
Yeah.
and feel like, wait a minute, well, maybe psychic stuff is real. Am I having psychic skills or what's going on? And so I want, for the most part, to just kind of ease people's minds. It's nothing to panic about. It's okay if you
Yeah.
had a psychic experience. And I'm glad that you are open to it. And let's talk about that a little bit. So, how do you know if you're developing psychic skills? How does that show up? How do people figure that out?
My opinion is that each one of us have psychic abilities to varying degrees of accuracy and consistency and competency.
Mhm.
Pretty much every one of us at some point in our life has been completely alone somewhere and heard their name called out.
Yeah.
So much so you look over your shoulder, you look around for the who called your name.
Mhm.
and there's no devices on, there's no, there's nothing on, and you're just completely alone. So that's one of the spontaneous mediumship experiences that many people have. The other one is you meet someone the first time, and when you meet them, you kind of get this funny little weird feeling, but man, they are really cute. They are really hot. So you disregard that little funny feeling
Yeah.
until hopefully, a very short while later, you get evidence that that funny feeling, it was, what was it all about? Hopefully you didn't marry the person and you have to go through a conscious uncoupling. But we've had these gut feelings about people. But if you're like most good Christians,
Mhm.
if you say anything bad about someone, you get punished. So for me,
Yeah.
it was my Uncle Billy. Uncle Billy was a lifetime Navy. Uh, he ended up being like the highest non-commissioned officer you could be.
Gotcha.
And he was freaking weird. I mean, skin crawl weird. And every time I was around him when I was a little kid, I didn't like him. I didn't trust him. I didn't want to have anything to do with him. And one
Wow.
time I said something about Uncle Billy being something. I don't remember what I said. And my family felt that if you spared the rod, you spoiled the child. So I got immediate karma for saying that, because it was not nice to be mean to Uncle Billy. So we have these feelings, we have all of these inputs and knowings that happen spontaneous from time to time. You may wake up in the middle of the night and someone's standing right next to your bed and you get, and they disappear. Well, that's because your mind got really active instead of in its quiet, receptive state next to the bed. So we've all had experiences you can't explain with the physical senses and the physical laws of the universe. That's where we have a portal into knowing that the energetic realm exists. Now, as soon as you get past that barrier of questioning that it's possible and what's happening to you, that's when you are awake spiritually. So you have your spiritual awakening. As soon as you accept all that stuff's true, and then you have that question next, now what?
Yeah. So if someone's interested in just figuring out what kind of psychic they are, I know that there's lots of information on the internet, and there's a lot of different senses with being psychic. And as we've said before, not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums tend to be psychic as a
Yeah, so
rule.
not all psychics are mediums, but all
Correct.
mediums are psychic. So
Right.
here's the basic breakdown.
Okay.
We have intuition. And intuition is information that comes from our own spirit self, that part of us that lives after we pass away.
Mhm.
So that's your spirit. It goes on spirit side, it hangs out with all your spirit buddies and family, friends, and loved ones that are over there. You have the reunion. Then you get about learning how to reach perfection, which is another whole topic. So you
Right.
have intuition. Now, intuition is you focusing your awareness into your own spirit, your
Mhm.
own intuitive knowing. That's where the gut feels come from. The premonitions come from. The hair on the back of your neck comes from when you have certain experiences. That's all coming from your energetic body, your spirit body, perceiving the energetic realm and
Mhm.
discerning information. Remember, the future casts a shadow before it. The closer the future, the stronger the shadow. Your intuition can pick up on that shadow. So you know that check's going to be in the mail. You know that you need to not go this way to work, you need to go that way. And then on the way, on your alternate route, you find out there was an accident on the first way. So that's intuition.
Right.
ESP, extrasensory perception, is extending your psychic senses, your psychic sight, your psychic smell, your psychic hearing, beyond your own vibration to perceive the world. This is where most empaths have their experiences. Someone walks in the room and they psychically, through their psychic senses, know if that person's in a good mood, a bad mood. They know who it is. They can give
Right.
a complete little reading on what's going on. So that's ESP, extrasensory perception, beyond the physical senses, perceiving the realm around you. Now,
Mhm.
the last one is mediumship. Now, mediumship is specifically communicating with a specific spirit guide or teacher or spirit entity.
Mhm.
So when you do that, it's like you tune into the radio station or the vibration of the entity. And what I have people do on our Sunday gatherings is put up your left hand and connect with the teacher on your left. Put up your right hand, connect with the teacher on your right, lefty and righty, and then you say, you describe how you feel them. Oh, it feels a little pressure, it feels a little tingly, it feels a little bit warm, it feels like you've got two hands over it. And as you connect with lefty and righty, you'll notice that lefty and righty feel different. So that's the different vibrations of the entity. So if I want to work with righty, I turn into the righty radio station
Mm-hmm.
and I talk to righty through mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the hardest part for people to understand, and why there are so many mediums giving messages that somehow just feel a little bit off, a little bit not ringing true.
Okay.
They've never developed their intuition or their ESP, which is 100% your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to quiet your mind, trust what you get, and you have to test your abilities and develop your abilities to tap into your intuition and your ESP. Mediumship, when you tap into the vibration of lefty or righty, during practice, they meet you halfway. So they will meet you halfway. So you say, give me a message or show me what's in this envelope, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
meet you halfway, but you've got to meet them halfway.
Right.
So most people have never developed the ability to control their mind and calm their emotions to the
Right.
point where they can hear their intuition, their ESP, or their mediumship.
Right. I think one of the most joyful experiences that I've had in developing my gifts over the years is consistency,
Yeah.
because I think that that's kind of the difference between a fleeting moment, because I do believe, like you said, that everyone has the gifts, because I believe that that is how we survived throughout all of our generations. If we didn't have intuition, we would have been eaten to death. We would have expired. We had to have a sense of other things going on around us in order to avoid danger. I believe that police have it. I believe firefighters had it. I believe people in the military have it. It's literally a way to survive. It's a way to be aware of what's going on around you. And I know that everyone can identify with the sensation of feeling like someone's walking up behind them at home. Maybe you're busy doing the dishes, maybe you're looking at your phone, but you feel someone coming up behind you. Well, there's nothing bad about that. It's just a sense. Just like you feel hungry, or you feel sad, or you feel excited. These are just feelings. They're not bad or good necessarily. So I'm hoping that we can kind of give people that extra confidence that whatever you're feeling, it's okay.
Yeah, and that's the part where, so I am not a religious person. I was raised a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
So my working definition of religion
Mm-hmm.
is the study of some other person's spiritual growth and development journey.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're studying Buddha or you're studying Jesus or Muhammad or
Right.
Krishna, you
Right.
have a set of teachings which you study their spiritual growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality is your journey to create the experiences that they describe in the holy texts or the religious texts. So as you start to allow yourself to realize there's something more to life than meets the eye,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the spiritual awakening kicks in. And then you have a choice. I can either just accept that and I can go about my life the best I can and do what I want to do. Or some people are like me and you, we're drawn to spirituality like a moth is drawn to a flame. We couldn't stay away if we wanted to. If we tried to put it away in a drawer, it would be yelling at us at night. Hey, come check me out. Come over here. Play with me. Let's develop this thing. I couldn't
Right.
stay. Since 1987 until I was ordained in 2014, it was my constant companion.
Right.
And most of us have the one thing show up when we have a undefinable, unexpected, spontaneous psychic or spiritual event.
Mm-hmm.
Fear kicks in because you don't know if it's the devil, you don't know if it's something metaphysical, you don't know what it
Right.
is, you can't explain it. And that fear was embodied within us by the people who raised us.
Yes. The
Once you
fear of
get
the
beyond,
unknown. Yeah. Yeah.
and for some of us it's just fear of punishment. If I do this, I'm going to get punished. For some of them it's a fear of not going to heaven or going straight to hell. So that's what we have to consciously be aware of in our mind, and that's why meditation is a foundation of all psychic and spiritual growth. It's learning to quiet your mind, calm your emotions, enter what I call the eye of the storm, that quiet place of knowing, where the
Right.
chaos of the world's at arm's length, and that
Mhm.
noise within you is quieted so you can
Right.
perceive those things spiritual.
I think that having these types of gifts available to people are really important right now, especially because there's so much tension in the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like if people were more in tune with their natural abilities and their natural senses, they might feel better.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
So unfortunately, before you can open the door to really be at home and comfortable with your skills, you've got to learn how to develop and recognize those skills, because you got one villain that is the villain of all supervillains, and that's called delusion. Too many times we have a thought, and that thought is so close to the intuition. They feel slightly and subtly different, but your rational ego mind
Mhm.
wants to override and veto the intuitive. So it's you got the instinct to survive and you got the intuitive knowing, and that's that tug of war
Yeah.
that you feel inside of you. That's why everyone talks about the dark night of the soul and all these horrific experiences, because your rational logical mind is in direct 180-degree opposite opinion of your intuitive knowing. So
Right.
until you get comfortable recognizing the difference between your mind thinking and your mind knowing, it's a very uncomfortable place. And fortunately, there are very specific training exercises that you can do that will train you to recognize how your knowing feels different than your instinct. And that's where, when I started, I was not a natural psychic or a natural medium. I had some intuition that showed up every now and then, and I could read people pretty good, but it was the devil's work. So I started from scratch. So unlike most natural mediums who have been doing this most of their life because they had a tribe that supported it, I didn't know anything. So I had to learn it from scratch. So I am not the best medium in the world. I'm okay, but I'm a damn good teacher because I had to learn it myself, and I was trained as an engineer. So I break everything down and show a scientific methodology to help you slowly develop trust in your intuitive knowing
Mhm.
over time, so that when you do get to that crossroads, if your spirit guides and teachers won't answer you because they won't answer everything, then you can trust your intuitive knowing and your ESP to get the answer you need.
So, one of the things I was curious for us to talk about and just kind of cover is intuition magic?
There have been a number of people throughout history who have been burned because at the stake because they had intuition.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is in the eye of the beholder. So for most people, intuition is absolutely magic. But just like a magician, once you know the trick, it's not magic anymore. It's just a performance. So that's where we want to train and develop yourself until you normalize your experience with on command, verifiable ways to know that you know, trust that you know, and recognize the difference between the knowing and the thinking about it. So for me, I'm happily a witch or warlock or wizard, whatever the hell you want to call me. Um, and thank God I live in California, because they don't have a problem with most of this weird stuff we do. Some parts
Right.
of the country and the world is not that it's not that way, and that's why we started Spirit 360.
Right. And I appreciate that because we need support.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that are experiencers that have had some really disturbing events that very much are alike things that happened a few hundred years ago that should never have happened.
yeah,
Um, Being different should not be dangerous.
yeah,
You know, we're not harming anyone, and most people have a psychic experience in their life, if not four or five,
yeah,
by the time they're 20. Thinking about someone and the phone rings. Well, that's not demonic, for heaven's sakes, and nor should it be aligned with something bad for that matter. Um, Having a sense of things going on around you, that's a life preserving skill. That is
yeah,
not something to fear. I feel like we were built this way for a reason. I think it's a survival skill, and I also think it's a talent if it's finally exercised, like you're talking about, to use to help people. Because a lot of what troubles us as humans is things that we don't understand or things that we don't know about. The unknown scares us, and helping to find answers is very healing. Answers about loved ones that have passed on, answers about our our health, answers about our work, things that we worry about are very real. So getting some kind of confirmation or suggestions, anything like that, we need it. We need some affirmations to kind of connect with what we feel we should be doing or what we feel is going to happen. The
Yeah,
unknown is a booger.
yeah, and fortunately, that like I say, the future casts a shadow before it. The closer the event, the stronger the shadow. So that's accurate about 3 to 4 weeks out. You can pretty much, if you get a premonition about something that's coming up, if it's a weak premonition, it's kind of like, but if it's a strong one, it like hits you in the forehead. The best thing people can do if they are really wanting to start to put brackets around their skills is start to keep a journal. And the journal you want to keep is weird stuff you think about that feels different than the normal stuff you think about. So you
Yeah.
have this premonition that the person who said they're going to give you the check is not going to show up on Friday like they promised. So you write that in your journal. Don't think the check's going to be here on Friday. You open the mailbox, the check's there or it's not. You have this premonition that, like I say, you need to take an alternate route to work and you find there was an accident on that way. So you write that in your journal and then you verify it a couple of days later when reality catches up with your premonition. So as you start to get these dots of information and you start to verify I'm accurate, not accurate, accurate, not accurate, accurate, not accurate, you start to get a field of experience that maps out your psychic abilities from your thinking, rational, worrying abilities. And then you
Yeah.
can start to pick you can start to develop the picture by connecting the dots. So most people perceive information the way they perceive thought forms. So if it's safe to do so, if everyone who's hearing this closes their eyes and think about an apple, and you either saw an image of an apple, you had an abstract concept of an apple, you had a feeling of an apple like you smelled it or you tasted it. So you have a primary way that your mind perceives thought form images, and that's all that happens is our mind is a image represent uses images to represent language and abstract thought. This directly correlates with what they learn in NLP with neuro linguistic programming, that some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are sensory. So
Mhm.
this maps on. So if you have any doubt, and I'm auditory, so I've never seen an apple, I've never seen any real pretty technicolor pictures. I dream okay that way, but when I'm
Mhm.
consciously awake, I don't. So
Right.
anytime I concentrate or visualize, I'm holding the thought and perceiving the energy waveform of that thought. I don't see the image. So if I say close your eyes and visualize a bicycle, I don't see a bicycle. I visualize the concept of a bicycle. So
Okay.
whatever way you're going, so you may, if you're auditory, you may hear a voice. If you're visual, you may get a flash or see someone or see a color out of the side of your vision. If you're
Mhm.
sensory, you may get this overall feeling of warmth or caring or loving. Those are the ones that are for me as a male the most troubling, because you get some of these really strong, powerful feelings and you can't help but weep because they're just so warm and comfortable and embracing.
Well, it's intense. That's
Yeah.
that connects with your soul and your mind and your heart all at the same time. That's a lot to deal with for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's also life affirming. It
Yeah.
feels better to have those connections and have that work through. Um, I definitely want to know when people are really worried about something and they're saying, I wish I just knew how to figure things out. So starting to track your psychic occurrences that may or may not be happening. That's a very black and white way to kind of track yourself and sort the difference out. Um, if you were talking to someone, what would you explain to them to help them sort out the difference between, am I imagining things in a fearful way or am I having a psychic message? How do you tell the difference between those two voices?
Like most things, the harder you try to do something, the more you block it. So think about the last time you misplaced your keys. Where did you find your keys?
Okay.
You find the keys the last place you look and the first place you see them.
Right.
So what happens is you have a picture of your keys in your mind's eye, however you perceive thought form. So you're looking for that picture and you're matching everything your physical senses
Hmm.
take in for that image of the keys. But
Right.
if they fell between a little crack and you're not seeing them the way you're used to seeing them, they're on a little edge. So you keep on looking, and eventually you see, and you may have looked in that place 4 or 5 times before you saw it the first time.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
if you're worried and you're fearful and you're running late, it's best to just write down the query concern on a piece of paper and go to sleep at night and do a technique I call that is called dreaming true. So as you
Okay.
lay down in bed, you start to doze off to sleep. Is just as you start to get really relaxed and doze off, you look at your hand and you get a really clear picture of your hand. And then as you doze off, you turn that your hand into the problem you need to know. Should I apply to this job? Should I accept this job? Should I date this person? Should I marry this person? Should I move to Alaska? Fall asleep and be ready to have the answer in the next 2 to 3 nights and ready to record that answer in your phone or in a journal or something like that, because this information goes into short-term memory, so it'll be there
Right.
for you, and then you go back to sleep and you'll forget about it, because there's
Right.
you'll get a 360-degree experience. You'll have a sense, you'll have a knowing, you'll have an image, you'll have everything you need comes out of your unconscious and subconscious mind as you
Hmm.
start to solve this problem. In some cases, you'll go to sleep so deeply that you'll go and have an out of body experience called soul travel, and you go with one of your teachers to talk through this stuff. And this is where most people get freaked out when they think someone's sitting on their chest or they're being attacked psychically at night. 80% of their spirit body's out playing with one of their spirit guides or teachers. Physical body wakes up, the heater kicks on, you get too hot, you get too cold, you had a
Right.
bad burrito, and you start to wake up, but there's not enough spirit body in your physical body to animate. So you feel
Right.
paralyzed, you feel like someone's sitting on you, and you get more and more panic, more and more panic. Your spirit body is out playing with your teacher, and it goes,
Right.
"Oh no, the body's waking up," and we got to fly back in. And all of a sudden, your spirit body goes into your physical body, and you go
Yeah.
because you got instant animation.
Right.
My first wife, that woman never stayed in her body at night. So, and for a while, when I was just fine tuning and honing my abilities,
Hmm.
I would know when she's getting ready to hop back in. And so I would wake up and I would look at her and she's just, death sleep, just completely out. Then she'd start to twitch.
Hmm.
And then I would see her spirit body fly in from the roof and
Hmm.
land in her physical body. And she'd look at me and go right back to sleep.
That's
Drove,
incredible.
drove me crazy. But
And did
that's
it?
one of those things, because I wanted to talk about it because I am not aware of doing that. I sleep sound. And when I'm out, I have plenty of time to get back in because I rarely wake up
Hmm.
unexpectedly.
I can say I remember plenty of times where I crash landed into my body and it's just the way you feel it. It's
Yeah.
like bam, you can actually feel it hit your
Yeah.
body. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
every nerve is struggling to move and it can't because there's no spirit energy there.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden every move gets electricity all at once. And it's like,
Right. That's amazing. That's amazing.
man,
So let's talk a little bit about what your 360 group has been doing the past year. How is that going? And what are some of the things you guys are doing right now?
well, we just redesigned the website and
Nice.
I have been struggling for 5 years to get my core curriculum, we call it the Spirit 360 way,
Mhm.
developed. And I struggle, and procrastinated and struggled. And I've got 4,000 versions of it, and none of them were perfect. And
Okay.
just before Christmas, I was really going deep into what fear it was that's stopping me from getting this course done.
Okay.
And because remember, fear blocks your intuition. So every time you run into fear, you run on your ego and your physical senses and your psychology and your emotions.
Right.
So I finally got to the point where I allowed myself to let go of the fear and said, what the hell's really going on? And what I realized is I've got two sides of my conversation. One is that I live in the physical world and I need money and I need to do things for money. And I've got this spiritual side of me that I really want to give to the world. And I was charging a tuition for my classes,
Hmm.
not a big one, really dirt cheap. But it's like, that's not congruent. So in my mind, if I'm charging money, it has to be super extra perfect.
Right.
But if I'm just showing up to meet with you, I don't worry about it. I just be with you and I give you everything I got. I don't hold anything back. I don't worry about
Right.
it. I mumble, I say bad words from time to time. And every now and then I'll check to make sure my hair's okay. So I got past that, and across the Christmas holiday, I redesigned the website, and now all of our core curriculum from the first class until the time you become an ordained minister, if that's the path you choose, there's no
Mhm.
tuition involved. So we've shifted from a tuition based model to a 100% donation based model. So the
Okay.
people who can contribute and give, and the people
Hmm.
who are here ready to learn and want to become better psychics and mediums and healers, they can go through the curriculum, and eventually, with they meet all the criteria, they can become a licensed spiritualist practitioner or a licensed spiritualist medium or minister. So
Nice.
that's what we've been up to, and the YouTube gods were good to me. And right after the first year, so we had like 45,000 views on our main video,
Nice.
and as soon as I changed the website, YouTube started pushing the video. And so we've had like almost 300 people sign up to the website. We've got,
Nice.
just tons of tons of activity. And so, yeah, it's the universe is starting to let me know that I'm on the right path. And then all of a
Very
sudden,
nice.
Holly reaches out and says, it's time for us to do a podcast again. I said,
Yeah.
perfect.
That's awesome. I just love that because there's a lot of clicking together, things that make sense that are working in perfect timing. And I love that. That is so affirming to me to have things happen at the right time. I just think that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so, what are you most proud of at this point in time that you've worked on? You've worked on a lot of things and you've done a lot of videos about a vast array of subjects. But what are you most proud of with all the stuff that you've been doing?
The courage I had the day I decided that life was not working, and the only thing I had not tried in life was to get ordained as a minister.
Yeah.
And so I finished my ministerial paper and I was getting ready to print it out for my wife to proofread it. And my computer died and I didn't have a backup copy, so I lost my paper. I rewrote it and recreated it in 48 hours and got it turned in. And it was an absolute leap of faith, because my problem is people talk about white privilege. Well, I was born with the most white privilege there is. I'm a very tall white guy born in the South, and you don't get much more privilege in America than that. But that engineering mindset, football playing mindset,
Mhm.
didn't map onto being a spiritualist minister, a psychic medium, and healer. They
Right.
just, those worlds didn't, they weren't in the same reality. And I had struggled through the physical world trying to make enough money so I could then basically retire and do my ministry. But it
Hmm.
wasn't until I took the leap of faith to do my ministry that the sequence of events came in that helped start to manage and alleviate our financial struggles and made Spirit 360 possible, even though it was a very long and winding road.
I bet. It usually is. Changes like that are not just a leap of faith, but timing and
Yeah.
things fitting together. And you don't know what you don't know. So you're finding out constantly where you need to grow and expand and how things are going to go. And it's still a blank slate, not knowing exactly what's going to happen because you're
Yeah.
you're doing something other people have done, but not the way you're doing it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a blank trail that you're headed out on. So it takes a lot of courage. So that's great that you were able to do that, because I think that's the dream of all people, is just to go the way you're supposed to go. And I think you found the way you're supposed to go. I believe that.
Yeah. And, our overall mission is to provide a safe place for people to study spirituality, regardless of where they live. And anytime someone shows up on our website or shows up on a Sunday gathering uh, that's from a Bible Belt or red state, it's just like it's music to my ears, because that's why I started this. Because
Yeah.
some states have one, maybe two spiritual or spiritualist churches, but they're hours away from people.
Yeah.
And if you get caught going there, there could be real consequences like losing your job for going to
Yes.
the wrong devil's type church. So
Yes.
that's our mission. And in the process of developing your psychic abilities and your mediumship abilities in verifiable on command ways, your life starts to improve because you align your mind, body, and spirit, and you get this three-part harmony. And that creates a synergy that allows you to tap into a place of effortless effort where you put your effort into knowing the next actionable decision and then taking that step. And that's what happened to me in December is I was just block, 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 block. And then I finally got my body and my mind aligned with my spirit and realized I was trying to serve two masters, the money master and then the spiritual leadership master. And I combined them together, and I've not been happier in a long time.
So, how did you finally figure out that you needed to do that? How did that finally get? Because as a man, to me, men are taught how to make decisions much more so than women are. We're taught to be complacent, we're taught to be compliant, we're taught to not talk about our feelings and not ever say, I don't like this or I do like that. It's very hard for us to make choices because we're taught that it's not polite to
Yeah.
select or deselect anyone or anything from our daily lives. So
Yeah.
we're basically supposed just to be good with it. Whatever comes our way, we're just supposed to roll with it and be happy and smile.
Yeah.
And so I've admired the ability that men have for making choices, but I know that it still doesn't mean it's easy. Because you're right. I mean, you do
Yeah.
serve two masters. You got to take care of your family. How did you do that?
By beating my head against the wall for almost 10 years. And I tried every possible way to make it work until I got to the bottom of the pile and I had no more choices, no more resources. All the while I was doing my meditation, all the while I was doing my practices. I'm pretty good medium. On Sundays I give, 40 to 60 messages to everyone who shows up to one of our gatherings gets a message. And so about an hour in the morning in the first service, and about an hour in the second service, a little over. So I'm really good at what I do. And it's like we were talking a little bit earlier that most really sensitive people don't apply their craft to themselves. So after I tried everything with everything I could decide to do in the physical realm, I finally got to that point where I chipped away by banging my head against the rock so many times, the rock got small enough that I could break it. And when I finally broke the rock, on the other side was nothing. And inside of nothing, everything's possible. And what I realized is if I can either try to become a very wealthy course creator, or I can be a very successful spiritual director of spirit360.org and trust the money will be there. And every time I take a leap into the spiritual realm, the consequences are my financial conditions get better. And I finally accepted that and trusted that, and am doing my best to stay in that mindset instead of run away and do something else to make money. So,
Right, right. I think that's something we all struggle with because I know myself when I'm helping people, I'm at my best.
yeah,
When I'm working for other people and doing things to help people's lives improve and heal, I flourish. I feel better. And
yeah,
that's where money seems to rest for me, is in
yeah,
that circle.
yeah,
But I hear about other employment opportunities all the time, and I think maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe I should look into that. That'd be some extra money. I'm always looking, for opportunities because that's kind of how I was raised. Very, very pragmatic and very concerned about earning. earn enough and do enough, and there's never enough. You always have to keep going. I think it's an American mind wash that we're never satisfied no matter how nice things can be, which is unfortunate because it doesn't give us much time to relax and really just be ourselves.
Yeah, and if you look at the state of our union, where
Hmm.
you've got 1% of the people controlling 50% of the wealth, and they're still wanting more. So it's
Yes.
like there, but that's the Buddhist gaping maw.
Hmm.
You just have this insatiable appetite that never gets fulfilled and satiated because you're always wanting more because you're not present in your body. And
Right.
as we start to allow ourselves to enter that quiet place of knowing, that quiet place of thinking tranquility, that quiet place of mindful presence,
Hmm.
a lot of that yearning, a lot of that lust, a lot of that starvation
Hmm.
starts to quiet and calm down, and then we can really be present to the beauty that is around us. And for me, that expression is when I allow myself to maintain a namaste mindset where the spirit in me absolutely recognizes, sees, and appreciates and loves the spirit in you. And that namaste mindset is a conscious choice not to get sucked into the chaos of the world, but to be present to what's possible when you are aligned and congruent with your authentic self, the essence of who you are. And it sounds very rubbish and hokey pokey and woo woo, um, but man, it's just right. And either you hear that and you say, I want to go on a vacation there, or you say, man, this ball guy is just completely full of crap,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter because
Right.
eventually, at that moment of spiritual awakening, you will see and know what the truth is. But then you have to reorchestrate your life, recreate your life, redesign your life to be aligned with that spiritual awakening, that spiritual knowing, that spiritual awareness. And that's where the chaos comes from because you got some people in your life that have been there for a long time and they were attracted to the old you and
Right.
they have no interest in anything spiritual. You have jobs and ways you've done things. You've got things in your past that are haunting you, that take
Right.
your energy. And as soon as you step into that place of knowing, love shows up, forgiveness shows up, acceptance shows up, all part of you. And that's what happened in December. I finally I was so frustrated because I hadn't been able to figure this damn thing out that I surrendered. I let go and I stepped through. And as soon as you have that breakthrough and step through the barrier, you see what's on the other side. And the thing is, the other side's always been there. It's that blind spot. Everyone else sees it, but you can't. And all of a sudden, you get a glimpse of it. Then the work starts. That's the problem. Most of us think the work's going to, as soon as you get that, the hard part's over. No, that's where the hard part starts. But that's what they've always said. As soon as you do what you love, it's not work. The thing is, most of us are forcing ourselves to love something we're doing instead of finding what we love and allowing ourselves to do the hard work of making it a reality in the three-dimensional realm. So that's kind of where I am right now in the beginning of 2025 before my next birthday.
Nice.
So,
So I have to say, for anyone that's curious about your possible psychic gifts and you're not sure, listening for an old psychic's perspective, you don't have to be stressed out all the time. You do not. You can actually be happy. And I know that there's an inclination and a feeling as an adult in America that if we're not worried about what's going to happen next, if we're not working our butts off and working too much, not getting enough sleep, not eating right, we're not living properly. That somehow, if we're relaxed and easygoing, we're lazy. And that is a lie. There's a lot of other cultures that are much, much older than ours. We have to remember our country is a few hundred years old. We're not that old in our thinking. There are much older cultures that have figured out that you must balance work and relaxation to think clearly. If you're anxious, if you're not sleeping good, if you're struggling and you get bit of intuition droplets here and there, a drop here, a drop there, and it gives you a little sense of peace. That's the window to let you know that there is something better. There is hope for you. There is good things coming to you. The universe is not against you. You are not destined to be impoverished and miserable your entire life. There is no sign on your forehead that says loser. You're really going to be okay. And there's enough in the universe for everyone to be calm, happy, and satisfied with whatever you need. It's all right there. Um, I very much want people to tune into their gifts because they'll feel better. You'll know more things about yourself. You'll know things about your family and friends that might help them if they're open to it. If they're not, that's okay too. Um, but I challenge everyone to be an individual and go your own way. It's okay to stick your toe in the water and learn about something else. It's not bad to learn new things. It's not bad to open your mind and be aware that there's more to life than what you thought. Truly.
And that's I guess that brings up for me the fact that unless you have a very profound near death experience, very rarely do your psychic abilities spontaneously go from 0 to 60. So you're at whatever level you are right now, 0 to 5, and you put your toe in the water and it's, oh, that's not too bad. And then you go from 5 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 11, 11 to 11, 11 to 11, then you go 11 to 15. So your skills slowly develop over time, and your adaptation and your integration of those skills into your real world life is slow and steady. So the biggest problem we have with, at Spirit 360 is I'm not promising you a weekend course that's going to allow you to become a psychic or a medium or a healer overnight.
Right.
It's because we're developing skills. So if you want to run a marathon and you're not running right now, it's going to take you a while to do the practices to get to where you can run 26 miles, 26.2. That's the same way it is with your psychic abilities. So you have plenty of time to start to keep those journal notes, start to keep your intuition log, and see how accurate you are. And if you really catch yourself reading between the lines, that's where you'll start to notice that difference between an instinct and an intuition. And once you get that really well, as soon as you can see it, then that's where you kind of jump to the next level, the next level, the next level. But every one of us will have a growth spurt, a plateau, a growth spurt, plateau. If you do your meditation and you do very specific practices, then the plateaus will be shorter. But remember, you have this whole story in your awareness from your past, and you have to be able to reconcile and recreate that story to include you as the person you aspire to be. And that's, for me, that's what took me so long, is that I was no way ever thinking I was going to be a spiritualist minister, even though in 1990 I knew I'd be a spiritualist minister. But it took
No.
me 30 years to wrap my head around the story that one day I would be ordained and I would be telling the world about psychic and mediumship via YouTube and via podcasts like Holly's. So be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, because you will get it.
Yeah.
You will get it. You need to think very carefully about what you ask for. The universe is listening and it has a sense of humor. I can promise you that. It definitely has a sense of humor. What are you most curious about these days, Terry? What are you researching? What are you looking into? What's your aim this year for 2025? What are you working on?
Well, last year on my birthday, so my birthday's next week, and that's
Okay.
why it's focused right now. And I set all my annual goals based on my birthday, not on the new year.
Okay. That's interesting.
So on my birthday last year, I got sick. And as I got sick, I had been ignoring a problem in my body for almost 7 years.
Hmm.
And it came to a head shortly after my birthday in 2024. And about sometime in April, it got so bad, I actually blacked out for 3 hours and had the conversation of whether I was going to cross over. Woke up from the 3 hours laying in a a pool of sweat, freezing my keister off because I was heading to the bathroom when I blacked out. And I got really clear that I'm not done yet. So what I'm working on this year is there is a very powerful spiritual ability to speed the healing process. And I'm very good at maintaining an equilibrium, except when I ignore stuff. So I had my prostate got really big. It blocked off my digestive and my urinary tract. And I also had IBS, and I didn't know there was two types of IBS. There's a constipation one, and then there's a free flow one. And I had the constipation one. And as I healed my prostate, it revealed a muscle that I had atrophied over 6 years because my prostate was so big it didn't allow the muscle to work. So there is a physical reality and rehabilitation inside the physical body that needs to happen in addition to the spiritual healing work. And I was really so focused on the mental, spiritual healing aspect of things that I was able to maintain equilibrium until I couldn't. And it turned out I had a couple of nutrients I was deficit in, and I had a couple of different challenges that I had ignored. So I've been working on the rehabilitation part of my body, because your body is just it's a machine like your car. And
Yeah.
if you don't change the oil in your car, you're going to have problems. So I wasn't changing the oil in the car. So now I'm having to rebuild my engine, but I'm doing it mentally and with rehabilitation and exercises. And
Nice.
I never saw that aspect of the healing. And that was the blind spot I had, that, I can manage most things, but I never healed anything. And that's the problem I had. So between diet and I was able to deal with my prostate problem. And it took me about 5 or 6 months to get the prostate about half the size it was. And that's where this other problem started to show up. It's like, holy moly, I didn't know that. And it's taken me another 6 months to slowly rebuild the strength of that muscle set.
That's
So,
amazing.
what I'm focused on right now is I will be 64 next week. So by the time I'm 65, I want to be in the best shape of my life. So
That's
that's what I'm
great.
focusing on. And I mean,
That's
physical shape. I want to be one of those, one of those old men in an underwear model that you go, damn. That's the picture in my head.
well, early happy birthday, Terry. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of like this whole idea about setting things by your birthday and not the new year. I think that's very clever.
Well, that's
I like
because
that.
I am always a procrastinator, and everything I wanted to get done on January 1st finally started to fall in place by March 7th.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was
Like,
like, okay, I'll make that as my goal. So the January 1st is the beginning of the fourth quarter of my year.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So if somebody wants to just give themselves a little bit of training at home, they've got a job, they've got family, they've got whatever, they're busy, busy, busy. How much time does somebody need to devote to really helping their focus to develop their skills? How
20
much
minutes a
time?
day.
How long?
20 minutes a day.
Okay.
So if you go to my YouTube channel, which is the Stoic Medium, and you look and you go to the videos and you click on the most popular video, there's one that says, "Are you an empath? A non-traditional test." In that video, it's 20 minutes or so, but I lay out the basic training for your intuition, your ESP, and your mediumship. So if you
Nice.
follow that process, 10 minutes of stillness meditation, 5 minutes focused concentration, 5 minutes of silence, that's all it takes, at least once a day, preferably twice, and then set aside 5 to 7 minutes after your meditation to go through the exercises in their simple deck of playing cards. And you listen for your intuition. What's the next card? You listen to your ESP. You feel what the next card is. You ask your medium, you ask your teacher what the next card is. And if you want to be good, you focus all on the intuition and ESP, because that's 100% you. You can't, you can't do that unless you have a receptive mind in control. Once you can get 60, 70% right on the cards using intuition and ESP, you're ready to step in and start connecting with lefty and righty and ask them. because you've got a profound sense of the difference of what your mind is guessing and thinking and predicting and what your spirit, intuition, and ESP is knowing. So
Nice.
once you have a sense of how knowing feels different than thinking,
Hmm.
then you're ready to connect with spirit, lefty or righty, and ask them what's that next card. But that one video has everything you need. And here's the thing, and I say this, and people laughingly think I'm kidding, but I'm not. If you can lay out 10 cards, 10 playing cards, and you can go through that 10 cards and you can know exactly what the next card is 6 or 7 times out of 10. So you
Hmm.
look at that card and it's 3 of spades. You turn it over, it's 3 of spades. You look at that card and you feel it's 5 of diamonds. It's 5 of diamonds. If you can get 6 or 7 out of 10, you'll be in the top 5% of the psychics in the world. Then if you can do that, asking your teacher, lefty or righty or whoever wants to work with you, and you test them that they can do it, and you test yourself that you can receive it, then you'll be in the top 5% of the mediums in the world. So that is how simple it is.
Nice.
The other thing you can learn at Spirit 360, and this is my first psychic ability, is psychokinesis, the ability to move stuff with your mind. And we're getting ready to have a couple of live in-person retreats in the spring and in the fall. And that's one of the things I pride myself in is anyone who shows up to my physical class walks away knowing they can move something with their mind without touching it. So
Nice.
that's the, for me, you got to have one superpower that you can rely on all the time, that you're consistently reliable no matter what. For me, it's psychokinesis. And
Okay.
that's the same energy you use for healing. So
Okay.
you learn to manipulate energy with the physical world with energy. They use that same energy for healing. So that's the grounding rod that keeps you from not falling down the trail, following the trail of delusion, thinking you know something when you have a verifiable, real way to verify it. It's a little humbling because you're going to be wrong a lot,
Hmm.
even when you think you're right. But every
Right.
time you're right, that's when you want to really investigate. How come I was right this time and it felt different? That's the lesson you want to learn.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Terry, for coming on today. And I left a note on the bottom of the screen. Would you repeat again how someone can reach you for people that are just listening and can't see this on the screen? Can you go ahead and relay that?
The best way to reach me is through the spirit360.org website, www.spirit360.org. You'll find a contact form there, and you can fill out that contact form, and I will respond to you. If you want to join us for a Sunday gathering, we meet at 7:30 and 10:30 a.m. on Sundays. You have to create an account and agree not to be a jerk. And if you agree not to be a jerk, you can join us on Sundays. You get a message, and you get some people think an entertaining topic. But you'll get a message from Spirit during our mediumship service. And if you really want a treat, we just added a new event called Evening with Spirit. It's the last Thursday of each month, and it is a intimate messages service where I do trance in the form of inspirational speaking and share a message from one of my teachers to the group that's on there. And then with while I'm in trance, you can ask my teacher questions without my opinion showing up in it. So that's actually the 27th. So
That sounds awesome. That sounds like
yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
All right.
and it's cheap. If you ever remember Mad Magazine, 5 cents cheap. So the
Yeah.
Evening with Spirit is via Zoom, and it's $10 cheap. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's awesome. And again, this is Holly from Holly's Pandorium. Please take a second and hit the like button. It may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal for me. And if you like this type of information, please hit the subscribe button to hear more content. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium saying thank you to everyone for watching and listening. And thank you, Terry, our Stoic medium, for being here today.
my
We
pleasure.
appreciate you so much. And follow us for more content, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks again.
Bye bye, everyone.